Good morning and welcome to Life and Style. It's Relationship Wednesday, and we are on Talk to Pastor Chris. I'm your host, Chris J. Temo. You know the drill. The hashtag is KTN Life and Style, and the hashtag is Talk to Pastor Chris. You need to follow us on our social media platforms at KTN Life_Style for both Twitter and Instagram, KTN Life and Style on Facebook. You could also follow me at CJ Atemo both on Instagram and Twitter, and then CJ Atemo on Facebook. That's the page, Chris J. Atemo. That's my Facebook account. Well, we're going to have a very interesting discussion today, something that some people may not even know exists, but it is said that it's coming up a bit more. So I've got a very good panel that is going to help me talk through this. We're talking about marital depression. What is marital depression? And I want to hear your views and your thoughts. Remember to use the hashtag KTN Life and Style. We're coming to you from the 4 Points by Sheraton at the airport. You know, this is a lovely place. We currently at the business lounge, and you could come in here, have your conferences, have time out with your family. You just want to relax, get the breeze, get the feel. There's good ambience around this place, so you could come in both for leisure and for business at the 4 Points by Sheraton right here at the airport. I've got my panel, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves from my father's right.
Thank you so much, Pastor Chris. My name is Ruth Bolo. I'm a fashion designer. I'm very happy to be here.
Good morning, viewers, and thank you so much, Pastor Chris. Glad to be here. My name is Mbogo Mombi. I am a life coach. I'm an inspirational author of several books, and I'm also a corporate business trainer. Very glad to be here.
Hello and good morning. Thank you so much, Pastor Chris. My name is Milka Ruhara. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm an entrepreneur also. I'm so excited to be here. This place is so beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Probably, you know, Mugo would be doing his corporate training.
Maybe.
Right from over here. And while you're at it, then you get Ruth to come in and just get people to know how to dress up, you know, and then Milka, the motivational speaking, yeah, then I can come in and wind up.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Somehow. But we're talking about marital depression. There are a lot of, you know, there are a lot of words that have been coined, a lot of expressions today that have been coined. Of course, everybody would know what depression is, but what is depression in the context of marriage? So what is marital depression? If I would start with my gentleman, because he's smiling.
Thank you, Pastor Chris. I actually thought you would start with the ladies. Here we're talking about relationship. We're talking about marriage in particular, and the issues that are, you know, very prevalent in marriage today, and especially issues that are causing conflicts, stress, because marital depression is a state in marriage where you have reached a severe state of depression, which, if it is not well checked, it could lead to sickness, and we know this at some point can also lead to death and so on and so forth. So you're talking about a severe state of stress here occurring in relationships, especially in marriage, and which need to be addressed. We have read in the media, we have witnessed cases across the nation and across the world of conflict in marriages today, which have led to very unfortunate situations, you know, violence, homicide, murder, and so on and so forth. And these eventualities of, you know, violence and fights and even death, probably at some point were caused by, you know, there's a process from stress to depression, and then to a state where you feel like you're absolutely out of control of this relationship or marriage.
So in my understanding of what you're bringing out, this is depression simply that has been caused by the relationship. It's a function of the relationship. It's not work related, it's not anything related, but it's a depression that has come from that. Milka.
Well, I want to agree with what my colleague has said here, and also to add on to something else. I think there is also external pressure that is also causing this depression in a marriage. And what I want to maybe bring out my understanding of marital depression is when one partner feels alone, depressed and sad in this relationship, they are sad and they are feeling lonely, there's this loss of energy in the relationship. You just don't feel like you want to put in any energy in this relationship. So I think there are factors out there. They could be work related or even relationship, family relationship that could drive a marriage into a marital depression that can affect the couple to a point of now going to the extremes of murder, you know, and suicide, as we are seeing in the society today. So yes, I agree.
Ruth, what would make somebody be in a relationship and feel lonely?
There are a lot of things that contribute to one feeling lonely when they're in a relationship. We've heard of so many times whereby someone says, I am in this relationship by myself. Sometimes you give out more than you receive. Your partner gives you less than what you give them. You find that a couple has been together for quite some time and they're not doing enough to keep on making sure that there's that spark. They are not igniting that spark every now and then. So one person tends to feel tired because it can get monotonous. If every morning you do the same thing, every evening you do the same thing, it's a routine. There's nothing that makes you look forward to seeing your partner the next time. When you try and make an effort, your partner is not making in any effort. So you're putting in a lot of effort all by yourself in the relationship. You're the only one trying to make it work, you're the only one communicating, you're the only one doing certain things that you feel will make your relationship stronger.
As you talk about the element of, you know, you're the only one who's trying and the other person is not doing anything. Could it also be that the other person has also hit their own level of depression? That's why they have nothing to give. Or is it always that they are negligent of their partner? Could it also be that they also feel, you know, I have nothing to give? So you're thinking you need to get something back, but they're not giving anything.
Most of the time, it's negligence, pure negligence. And sometimes we also take what we have for granted. A friend once told me, you never know the value of something until you lose it. So you could be in a relationship where, say, 2-3 years down the line, you're now too comfortable, and you know, because of how much the other person loves you and how much the other person has invested, no matter what you do, there's nowhere they're going. So you also don't put in any effort. She'll wake up in the morning, or he'll wake up in the morning with a new outfit, ready to go to work, ready to start their day. You don't notice it. It's such simple things that make someone feel neglected and alone in a relationship.
All right, you want to say something?
Thank you very much. The word loneliness certainly will come from the word alone. So when I'm lonely, it means I feel isolated. I feel alienated from the relationship or people who ought to be close to me. And there are several reasons that you can feel isolated or lonely, because it means I lack companionship. Loneliness can be viewed from different perspectives, not necessarily because somebody is physically absent, but probably because we are not emotionally and spiritually connected. Probably because along the way there has been a widening gap between the partner and myself. And I think to a large extent, the primary cause of loneliness is lack of communication. Because whether this communication is through the word or presence or availability, because where there is no communication, and Pastor is better placed even to explain here, there is no communion. There is no communion. Communication actually means shared meaning. We can be in a relationship with my partner here, but we're driving in different directions. Along the way, we don't have a common or unified vision. And where the vision is now different, is divergent, then there is division. I have my own vision, she has her own vision, and then that relationship becomes divided. And I think the most important thing, and this is, I think, the primary cause of this depression and the issue that you're witnessing in the family, is lack of engagement, lack of communication. Number one, if there are things that I think she's doing and they're not right, it doesn't help me by keeping quiet. It doesn't help me. I need to raise them early enough so that they can be addressed. Because I think depression comes at a point when You know, it's like the mic she's holding. This mic is very light, very light. But if you hold it on your heart for too long, it will make your hand numb. Not because of the weight of the mic, but because in fact, it's already getting heavy on my hand. So we allow issues to accumulate in our relationship, and number one, we have the fear to address them, and fear is brought about by the fact that we are not very open to each other. We fear consequences, we fear reactions. But I think if we want to address the stress and the depression in our marriage, we must address issues as they come between ourselves. And if probably this issue we are not able to address them at that point, we can seek external help. Probably we can go to the pastor or somebody else or the marriage counselors to help us address these issues, because if we don't address them, then they may get out of control.
Okay, and you deal with couples too.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Do you agree with that view that, you know, the breakdown in communication?
Yes, that's a fact. In fact, part of what brings problems in marriages. And I wanted to just point out, like, marriage is like a garden. How you tend it, how you take care of the plants there, watering, you know, putting fertilizer, making sure that the plant, there are no tears in the garden. I mean, then you'll have a beautiful garden. Same way in marriage, you have got to tend it. It is your responsibility. You have got to invest in it. And that's why I don't agree that marriage is 50-50. I want to say that marriage is 100%. I give my 100%, my partner gives 100%. Because then where do I take my other 50? I'll have to engage it elsewhere. But if I am here to engage it 100%, then I will be able to tend this garden and make sure it brings out the best. You know, and just like we have self-development, like for people who are in work or even in business, you want to develop yourself in business, you want to go and rise up in levels, you know. So the same way in marriage, we have got to work at it to develop it, take it from one level to the next level. And then we will avoid a lot of this depression that we are experiencing currently.
Pastor Chris, I just wanted to add on to something he said. When we talk about communication in marriages, and when we're talking about addressing issues before we get to the point where we have this depression in our marriages, do we really know how to communicate in our marriages? And most of the time you find that when
And that's very preemptive, because I was going to go there.
most of the time you hear when a couple is going through something, it's the core problem is normally communication. And even as the couple prepares to get married, as they're going through classes, for those who do the premarital classes, are they really taken through how to communicate with your partner? Do they really know how to communicate with the partner? I think that is one fundamental question that once a couple is able to sort of figure out how to talk to your other partner, then you're able to avoid any issue that will steer you towards depression. Because the minute you even start thinking, I'm starting to get depressed, the minute that thought is there, that's already a red flag.
And most of the time, people rarely would think that it comes from the marriage. We love to show that our marriages are working.
Yeah.
And so we will blame everything else.
Yes,
apart from the relationship, there's a way we believe in it. So somebody will be thinking, maybe the stress is from work, or I'm just, actually most people will say, I'm bored, I'm feeling low. You know, they won't even they won't think that there's really something happening there. And when you talk about the element of communication, sometimes the partner cannot pick up that their partner is not okay.
Yes.
Sometimes we're so busy, so your partner is slow, your partner is moody, they have no energy, but the other partner is also too busy to pick up the fact that this person who is not speaking out, that's part of communication, right?
Yes.
My ability to pick up what the other person is.
Exactly. And that's why I disagree 150% whenever men say, I don't know.
Indeed. Let's hear that, Pastor.
Because the line
Let's hear
is
that.
this line, unfortunately.
The man is here.
Unfortunately, it's the men that use it. I disagree 150% whenever men say, I don't understand how ladies expect us to hear or understand what is going on in their head. If they can't communicate what their problem is, if they can't open their mouth and tell me what their problem is, then I'm not able to know. But as my partner, you should be able to know, today I'm not able to talk. Today I'm not able to do, maybe I love painting. Why am I not painting? I haven't been painting for the past 2 weeks. Could there be a problem? I'm looking at a screen, but I'm not really watching. I'm just staring at it. Is there a problem? I'm unable to sleep. You know, such signs.
But you know, just thinking about the element of communication again, don't you think that sometimes couples avoid communicating because they fear? They fear. For example, so here is my wife not talking, or my husband not talking for a while. The first thing I'm thinking is they are upset with me.
Yeah.
Mostly in relationships, the first thing that the person will be thinking is that you're upset with them, and they may not think that you may be going through an issue, so they're afraid to ask what's going on, lest something just comes up. Do you think that that's an issue that causes people not to communicate well?
Yes, I think it's an issue.
Yeah.
But let me, maybe before I answer that, when these people are courting, this couple, before they become married, are courting, they communicate. I will call you
The
at
stakes
midnight.
are low. The stakes are low at that time.
I'll call you at midnight. When you're not talking, I'll find out what's happening to you. I've not seen you for 2-3 days. You know, we are on one another's case, like, you know, we want to know what's happening step by step. Then what happens, what changes in the marriage setup such that now we no longer can even talk? We can't communicate. I can't be sensitive enough to pick that there's something amiss. And then even for the partner to be feeling like maybe I've done something wrong. You know?
You know, I think, and maybe, you know, you'll just pick it up. I think that when people are courting, they still really elevate the element of friendship. As in, these two people are exploring each other, they are friends, they are free, they're talking. They don't really feel, yes, they do. They still elevate that. The moment people get into marriage, and especially when you get into it in the African context, there's a behavior that is expected of you that causes people, I think, to lose a certain sense of themselves, because now you are like, Milka, you must remember, you're a married woman. So even if you come over here, you know, remember you're married. So it becomes like a tag. And so the awareness of your new position begins to make you feel like you need to perform duties in a certain way, and you begin to lose the friendship. I believe I'm right.
And that is exactly where the problem begins, Pastor Chris. The minute you start doing or you stop doing things because there's a certain expectation that has been set out for you, that is exactly where you start laying the strong foundation for the depression in your marriage. Because you start feeling like, you know, right now I can't bring up something because he'll run to his mother. Or right now I can't do A, B, and C because he already knows you know, such things will take our relationship way back. The minute you get into a marriage, the minute you decide this is what we are going for, it's because you've learned each other, and you know this is what I want, this is what I can't live without. So before you get married, you've been dating, and before you've been dating, there's a period where you guys are courting. You both know you have feelings for each other, but you haven't exactly come forward with those feelings, and you're still trying to figure out, can it work? Just before you decide, okay, let's date, you're trying to figure out, can it work? You're still learning each other. When you start dating, it's a higher step or a higher level of learning each other. So when we say that the stakes are lower when people are dating, it's completely false. And also on the point you said about people fearing,
I will tell you why. You see, you can break up at a dating stage, and you'll still say, I didn't think they were the right person for me. Once you were in a marriage, everybody will remind you, you are bound, whether legally or by a covenant. And so the stake is higher, because the chances of, you know, when you break up a relationship and when you divorce, those two people are not on the same plane.
I agree, but are we then saying that we shouldn't put as much effort when we're dating? Because the minute we put that in our minds, it means even if he does a mistake tomorrow, I can just let him go.
It's not about validating it. It's about stating a fact.
And I think also that is where the mega problem is. Because if I have to hide that truth in me, because I need to please this tag, I need to satisfy this expectation, yeah, then I stop being me. So at some point in this marriage, depression will set in. Why? Because I'm not fulfilled, I'm not living me, you know. So I guess then whether we are looking at the stakes being high or not, when we are getting into this commitment, into this marriage, number one, it's supposed to be lifetime, you know. But really when we are getting in, are we understanding what we are getting into? I know at some point...
You've just agreed with me right there that the stakes are higher. Subconsciously, you have just agreed with me because you've said, do we even know what we're getting into? That means it's something you've got to really think about, because it's not child's play. It's something that is really serious. So you've just said, at that transition, we're getting into something that is deeper than what we had before. It does, you see, that's comparative.
The foundation laid.
Listen, I don't want to turn this into a semantic argument. I say the stakes are higher. That is a comparative statement. That's a comparative statement. High, higher, highest.
And I think, Pastor Chris, the stakes are very high because, and I like what she's talking about. I think the most critical stage in this relationship that leads to marriage is courtship, because this ought to be an opportunity where to me the primary objective of courtship ought to be to know each other, so that we can be able to assess whether we're compatible in respect to the vision for our future. It's foundational and it's fundamental. It's like this building. If the foundation is not right, it will never stand the test of time. But very unfortunately, there is no stage in this relationship, in marriage, that is taken as casually as the courtship stage. Because during the courtship stage, we're trying to win over each other. We're trying to impress each other. And therefore, we end up masking ourselves. We don't present our true self. It's like a product commercial script that you see in the media. We kill 120% of germs. It's not realistic. But that particular line can actually can defraud you. And we don't address the real issues in courtship. And I think this is the primary cause of the animosity and the conflict.
Saying that courtship is supposed to be that serious, man.
If you allow me, I can use my example. When I was courting my wife, and this is real, we would agree beforehand the subject of our dating. And believe me, Pastor, let me say this. We would go with a notebook and we would say our next date is this day, and we're going to talk about, for example, sex. And we would go and make notes about it. Next date we're talking about managing our in-laws. Next date we're talking about financial management. For real, for real. We talked about financial management. We talked about the number of children we'll have in our life. And let me tell you this, and I'm not saying that mine is the best marriage ever, but that beginning has given us an extremely strong foundation to be where we are today. We were able to unify and harmonize our vision to become one, because two can never walk together if they are not one. And I think this is what is missing, because we quickly get into marriage, then she realizes I was not real, she realizes her expectations and aspirations are not met, and what happens? We start separating, and that affects.
But what about the fact that most people, at the point that they're either courting or dating, they're also young. So they've got the youthfulness, they've got the excitement, they've got a lot of hope, anticipation, so they've got a certain level of playfulness, because they're just concentrating on themselves. Maybe it's not even that they're not trying to take the courtship serious. At that particular stage, they just focus on the two of them. They want to go out, they want to play, they want to watch the movies, they do a lot of things. Then they get into marriage, and then it gets back to the place where I say, now it has drilled into your head, you are somebody's wife. So there's even a certain way now you cannot dress. there's even a certain way you cannot behave. The other social life is nearly killed. Because if I was a man and we were dating, probably I'm in a church somewhere, I can say hi to a few other people. Now you're married, you're somebody's husband. So you're even afraid to relate with other people. So you're beginning to over-expect from one another because you have cut off every other outlet, if I may call it, that you would have. You don't have any other meaningful relationships outside because now you're married. So these two people have got to face each other here, and probably they don't have enough resource to be everything to each other. That's why I said when it gets there, the rules change.
Like you said, Pastor, most of the times when you're starting these relationships, we are young, we are inexperienced. When there is something long-term, they need to seek help. I'll give you an example. One of the thorny issues during my courtship with my wife was religion. Something as simple as that. It was so thorny, so thorny. At one time, we almost thought probably would never be, get into marriage because of it. But I will forever remember the pastors and the priests who really counseled us and told us that this ought not to be any, wall in terms of marriage and so on and so forth. So we were counseled, and we were able to, to overcome that bottleneck just because. So today I think it's very important for us to emphasize that seek counseling, and especially from people who could be regarded as role models in their relationship, so that because they have probably passed through where you want to pass in your future, and certainly have met a lot of challenges along the way, and they have been able to maneuver through, navigate through that, which means they're more experienced. I think it is very important for us to seek counsel and advice from those who are successful. And this advice ought not come from technology, YouTube and so on and so forth. That is not going to help, because most of these channels may not necessarily provide authentic information and knowledge about these situations.
Because Ruth, I'm coming. I still want to stick at the place of communication just a bit, how it shifts when people are courting or relating, and the place where they're married, for example. If you're dating, relating right now, and you tell your fiancé that there's a gentleman interested in you, he probably will take that as a compliment. People are interested in his girl, and then he feels he's the strong man in there. You can imagine when Milka, who is married, is saying somebody is interested in her. I don't think that the way the husband would process that, well, I'm not saying this her husband per se, but generally, I don't think he will process it the same way that a fiancé would, because right here, it becomes more difficult to open up and talk about certain things. Remember, I was talking about communication. We stuck at the place of communication. It's more difficult over here because you nearly want to feel guilty that somebody is interested in you because it may be perceived that you're not carrying yourself out as a married woman. So what happens? You keep quiet. And we said it starts with the little things. So there's a loss of a certain freedom that people used to have in communication, because now they need to be perceived as responsible married people, either as a husband or as a wife, because they don't know how this other person will take that kind of information. That's in most cases. In some cases, people are a bit more open and they are free. Don't you think that this kind of things, that switch, begins to make people, partners, look at themselves more, actually, that's the word, as partners than as friends? And that begins then to put pressure, because the relationship is now work. It's no longer something that they enjoy.
It becomes like a business contract,
more
than a marriage, really. And yet for me, and my understanding of a marriage is I am married to a person who is my friend, who I can come to openly and tell them I am going through this challenge. I am having this difficulty. But you see, Pastor Chris, it didn't start after 10 years after marriage, no. But from the time that we were courting. Because I was born in Mombasa, raised in Mombasa, married in Mombasa. So for me, being open, you just talk to anyone. You can, unlike here. So I am open. I will tell you, look, you hurt me. What you said, I didn't like it. What your mother said, I didn't like it. And for my case, like he was actually told, you are marrying a woman from Nyeri. No, we are not accepting her. you know. And for me, that was like, already I had a tag. But I told him, look here, I'm not marrying your family. Yes, they will come into the picture, but this is between me and you.
Yeah.
So we either choose to make it what we want out of this marriage, or we can part ways. I think when we begin from the foundation, we can now start changing these things. Now that we have realized the depression and the levels that it's taking people to a point of taking their lives and killing their children, their wives, or their husbands, we need to now look at it differently. We need to address the marital counseling from a different angle. We need to now be aggressive. Otherwise, it will continue, because pressure, even out here, peer pressure, even for married people, I mean, it's increasing by the day. So if we don't address
Try to keep up with the Joneses.
Oh yes, my goodness, I need a car like hers. I need to dress, I am going to shopping.
We're
to
the
Dubai.
only family that doesn't have this.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, so it's putting many men into those positions of depression. It's only that they don't come out and say it.
Let me just ask this, because I might as well just go into it. Do you think that, you said it puts a lot of men in that depression place. Do you think that some of these women charmers are breeding ground for marital depression because there's a lot of peer pressure right there?
I don't think so, because it depends on what is the objective of this charmer. Yes, I believe there are some out there.
Okay.
I am in one.
All right.
But I believe...
Objectively,
Yes.
Forget about yours.
Yes, but I believe they can actually help a lot. I was reading a scientific article where it says that as a woman, you need to go out with your girlfriends more often. It creates a serotonin. There's a chemical called serotonin. Yes, there's a chemical production in the body called serotonin, and it is a very
to
women. Yes, exactly. Oh yes.
And you have problems when we hang out with the boys?
Because you hang out for the wrong reason. The shaking will come by the wind of those maybe ideas from other people when you yourself are not strong in your mind.
So it depends on you as a person.
Yes, as a
well.
person. You can't tell me because my husband will beat me.
But again, there's the element, if I may just push it further, because we talked about communication, we talked about loneliness, we talked about the element of feeling alone. Sometimes, as you have a partner that you have shared your needs with, you keep on communicating, then they don't seem to meet those needs, or they don't seem to care. There's the element that Ruth brought in where people take each other for granted. And then one person gets into a place where they say, you know what, I'll not bother with him anymore. There's an adaptation. Like, I'll not expect this from them. I'm not expecting this change. I'm not expecting them to pay attention. I'm not expecting them to do this. Then they just slump. But something has shifted in that marriage. They have somehow fed their computer something about the other person. So either they're also losing interest, or they begin to feel, sometimes if it is financial, so you find, for example, a woman who was married to a man and they thought we're doing our finances together, then she gets to a place she begins to feel by herself, okay, let me also start keeping aside my money. Something has shifted. It's not that that was what she wanted initially, but because of a certain treatment, then something has shifted. What should happen to the kind of person who feels, I have tried to communicate, and now I have just let it go?
I think because unfortunately, I'm the type of person that will just go quiet once they felt that, once I feel like I have really tried and I'm not seeing any result, I just let go. And even when I'm quiet, already that's communication. That's some sort of communication. A conversation is between two people. But when I am communicating, it is one person releasing some sort of information. And I don't necessarily have to communicate by speaking. My actions communicate much more than the words that I will let out, you know. So when I fear whatever action my partner will take when I bring something up, there's a certain way I'll behave. I've already communicated. When I go quiet, I've already communicated that there's something wrong. That's communication enough. So it's up to my partner to pick that communication up and see what to do with that information. Because whatever reaction they will get depends on how they use that information that I've just released.
There's a gentleman, you know, one time wrote me, very interesting, said you need to help me. Of course, it's morning TV, but I just threw it off. And the wife had completely lost interest in him as a man, so there's no intimacy. So he's there. He's in this institution that is called marriage. But the wife is completely disinterested in him as a man. So this man is going to stay here. How do you even start that conversation?
Very interesting. I am sure there was a time that the two persons were fairly intimate. They were close to each other. At some point, you missed a turning. You missed a turning at some point. I am still convinced and convicted that this can be resuscitated. It can be resurrected. Whatever brought us together in the first place, unless of course it was based on thin ice. For example, today we are entering into relationships based on what does Mbugamumbi have today, or the other way, what does she have today, because it's either way. And I'm looking at the car she drives, I'm looking at her wallet, I'm looking at her physical beauty, I'm looking at her education, or her religion, or her tribe, and I marry that. In fact, I call it, I marry the container. I marry the container. And I lose sight of the content. I don't ask myself, what is his or her value system? Where is she likely to be in the next 10, 20 years? Are we compatible in terms of value system? So I'm trying to build my house on what? On sand. So along the way, we'll keep on separating, widening the gap, and one day she'll look like what? A hyena to me.
But how do you just, you see, because there's certain things that I said, you know, certain things are not very easy to talk about. But this is something that can begin to draw this person into a place of feeling that loneliness, their needs are not met. And sometimes there are even issues that are like your partner is unwell. Your partner is unwell, you've been taking care of your partner all the time. And so now you're beginning to feel completely drained. In 1 second, Milka, then I close.
Well, I guess those things do happen. But apart from sickness, which would cause people not to be intimate, I think these other things are things that can be sorted out. For example, when somebody has switched off sexually, there must be a reason behind it. There must be a root cause
So
for
do you
that.
confront it? Do you talk to somebody
let's
else?
Talk about it.
Okay.
And if this is my husband, let's talk about this. If I can't talk to you, can I talk to somebody who can intervene?
All
Because
right.
yes, it's possible.
Okay. Well, my time is already completely up.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. If you don't do it, someone else will do it for you. Of course, you know, we can't even finish this particular talk. When people feel neglected, when people feel like they're alone or lonely in a relationship, there would be so many reasons. Whatever it is, just seek help. Find a way, try to establish communication lines, either with your partner or with somebody else who can help you just reestablish those lines. Coming to you from the 4 Points by Sheraton, that's where we've been coming from, and at the Business Lounge, well, this has been Talk to Pastor Chris. Crystal Okusa is coming up next with Style with Crystal. Don't go anywhere. Keep it right here. Life and Style, Relationship Wednesday.